Hey guys, welcome back to Fashion Flash and Dash. It only recently occurred to me that the time I spent in corporate America has so much to do with why I'm so successful today in Black Unicorn. So I thought it would be beneficial to interview one of my friends, Charlotte Elliott, who is still in corporate design. Watch this interview and learn all kinds of tips and tricks for how to get into the industry and how to climb the ranks while you're here. So, if you have aspirations of being a brand owner or running your own business like Black Unicorn, you'll have a great head start. All right, enjoy. All right, hey Charlotte, thank you for joining me today. So, in 30 seconds or less, can you tell me your name, number of years in the industry, and why you're dangerous? As in, like, why are you my industry expert?
So I'm Charlotte Elliott. I've been in the fashion industry for about 16 years now. And I guess I'm dangerous because I've worked my way up from associate designer all the way up to senior designer running the team. I know how to collaborate with other cross-functional partners. So I think that's something that's really desirable in our industry.
Absolutely. I'd say that makes you dangerous. Also, I just wanted to do a quick icebreaker. This is meant to be fun, not like, we're going to school. So, do you have any stupid human tricks or hidden talents? Mine, for instance, is I can catch food in my mouth from like across the house. Anything like that you want to share with everybody?
I was actually really giving this a lot of thought, and I can cross one eye at a time.
Oh, I can't do. I've never tried.
It's not attractive, so I'm not going to do it for you. But I was like, what can I do? Yeah, it's not attractive, but just trust that I can do it.
Okay, so let's jump into the questions about an industry expert. And I just kind of want to dig into some things that I think either current students, people that are about to graduate and enter the industry, and even people that maybe are in the industry and are kind of struggling to navigate. I think you could really help people in any of those positions. All right. So what do you look for when you're hiring staff at your company?
Yeah, so probably the biggest thing is, some sort of fashion degree, but more importantly, really Adobe Illustrator experience. It really is kind of the industry standard. Some companies use Corel. If you don't have access to those, like train yourself on Inkscape. It's free and it's pretty transportable, those skills to Adobe Illustrator. But basically technical drawing skills digitally. Also, we actually use Microsoft Excel and Outlook quite a bit. So basic spreadsheet knowledge, email etiquette is something that a lot of people are missing coming into the industry. And then those kind of soft skills like ability to collaborate, drive for results, and really just the general agility to change directions really quickly because we change directions many times throughout the day.
Is there any way you can tell that? I'm going off script a little bit. Any way you can tell that from an interview? Like, is there a series of questions that you ask that helps you to hone in on, yes, this person will be able to handle these things in real life?
Yeah, so that's the question, right? The soft skills are actually really difficult to evaluate we usually do at least 2 rounds of interview, and a lot of those are virtual these days. So it is something that's hard to tell. We do have certain questions that are crafted, like, will you try to find the answer yourself before you come ask one of us? We can ask those kind of things, but those kind of have scripted answers, right? So more so I look for, did they do any research about our company before they applied? Do they ask the right questions? Like, what made my predecessor, successful, or what does success look like 3 years down the road? If they have a little bit of that forward-looking sort of point of view in an interview, it's usually a pretty good indicator. Yeah. But yeah, those are really honestly the hardest things to evaluate. So you can only get so much of a feel for a person, in 2 30-minute sessions. Sure. And then you just hope that what you're seeing is like they come as advertised. But yeah, sometimes you just get a feel for people. And sometimes you can craft some questions to hopefully get you a little closer to that truth.
Yeah, I would imagine if you can at least speak to having some vision into like how to be successful on your own, then you're going to need less hand holding. So I would imagine that that comes across with the right person. Thank you. All right, next question. Is there anything you feel that's missing from the curriculum in design school that maybe like just across the board, every time you're interviewing people, you're like, why don't we focus on that more in school?
Yeah, so I think about this a lot because I am a hiring manager. So every school's different. Some are better than others, but having real exposure to industry standard PLM systems is something that seems to be kind of lacking across the board. So, whether that's a Gerber system like Web PDM or Unique PLM, whether that's a Flex PLM, it just doesn't seem like that is something that gets a lot of playtime in curriculum. Um, we can teach it, of course, if you have any sort of PLM experience, it kind of translates, right? Like, where do the tech sketches go? Where do the specs go? Where do the BOM go? But that's something that seems to actually be missing quite a bit. And then the other thing is there is this sort of disconnect between when the professor maybe left the industry and started teaching versus where the industry is today,
Yeah.
right? Like 5 years can mean a lot of technological advances, a lot of just what countries are doing what. So that's another thing that is really, I think it's difficult for a curriculum to teach, but the schools that are doing it right will reach out to their industry partners and have sort of training sessions or have them come in as speakers or have them come in and evaluate their portfolios. So I think that's the best way for them to bridge that gap, because you don't know the industry until you're like in it, right? So I think that's something that's also missing.
So next question. What is your best advice to prepare yourself and or your portfolio after design school to like really set yourself apart? Because you mentioned some personality traits you look for, but how can you really set yourself apart?
So one of the things I look for is not so much can you design the coolest looking thing, it's can you put together a cohesive collection, whatever that is. Is it ready to wear women's wear? Is it children's wear? Whatever. If you can put together a color palette, a cohesive design story, if you can put together a brand identity, that's something a lot of schools are doing now, where they'll include accessories, they'll include basic packaging, logoing, things like that. That to me says more than just here's a pretty hand illustration I can do. I want to see that you can design a collection.
Okay. Okay, good deal. All right, next question. So, can you name a few things a person can do to climb the ranks in the industry? Because I feel like a lot of people are really good at interviewing and they can get in the door, but they maybe get stagnant in their position in the industry. Do you have any thoughts or tips on how to, get to that next step and keep climbing?
Yeah, I mean, the best thing you can do, especially as a designer, is to be collaborative with your partners down the stream, right? Because as the designer, you're kind of initiating that development, you're setting the trend direction, with input from other teams, but you are basically putting together a design that then gets passed downstream to product development, to tech design, to sourcing. So be collaborative. Being collaborative with your cross-functional people is going to get you noticed. It's going to possibly pave the way for you to get that promotion. And you can also just make sure you are owning the thing that you're in charge of today. Like if you show ownership, if you show that you care, if you look at the sales results and digest that and figure out what you can do better, that is going to indicate to whoever your supervisor is that you really have a handle on what's going on and you may be ready for that next step up.
Okay. That is really good advice. I think some people that are ambitious do that naturally because you have a unquenchable thirst for, curiosity. But yeah, that's really good for people that maybe are introverted, that are ambitious, but also introverted. You got to get away from your desk and talk to other people in other
Yeah,
departments.
yeah, introvert.
Yeah, but you managed to climb the ranks. So
You gotta like fake it till you make it is real. I thought that was just a thing people said, but if you can just kind of have the smile, like have the energy, like
yes.
show up and say the things and do the things, like it will start to become natural.
Okay. All right. That was actually quite a few nuggets of gold in there. Okay. Can you name a few positions within a design team that you can fall into? Because a lot of students think that I'm going to be in a studio with swaths of fabric and sewing things. So just name a handful of positions in that fall under you.
Right. So, I mean, the way we're structured, everything that falls under me today is true design. So, it may be design over a specific category. It may be where you're kind of leading, like, okay, I have, women's formal wear or whatever it is. And you are the head designer. I help give you the direction, but you're kind of leading that category. There may be an assistant role that kind of helps with the more sort of day-to-day stuff. So like the tracking, the responding to vendors, the maybe lab dip reviews, stuff like that. And then the other things that sort of are related would maybe be your merchandising team. So those that's probably the team we work with the most closely. We feel like we're one design and merch team, even though we have designers and merchandisers, because we're kind of looking at kind of trend and what's going on in the market, and they kind of help liaise between us and the sales team to get that information up front. But it feels like we're developing the collection together. So whereas I'm kind of the true design track, there are a lot of positions that work very, very closely with us, even if they don't like directly report to the design director.
Yeah. I asked that question specifically because I feel like that maybe that's something else that they don't really cover in school. And maybe it's because every company runs slightly differently. Um, who knows? But I think it's important for people in school to know that even if you aren't the best illustrator, or if you are maybe a little colorblind, like there are different things that you can do in the industry. So thank you for touching on that. Then lastly, this is kind of a fringe question that I think some of my startup companies that I work with, because all I work with are startup brands, and they are all trying to figure out like, how do I become a household name? So, and this may not even be your wheelhouse, but I feel like you've been in the industry long enough to have seen things come and go to be able to speak to it a little bit. So what would you say that the people that are doing it right, what are they doing to set themselves apart and to stay relevant?
Yeah, so that's the hardest thing, right? Is a corporate brand has like all of these resources at hand, but a startup doesn't, right? You
Right.
may be one person or two people to start up. So I actually think that the great democratizer is probably social media, and being able to do kind of all of those things on like TikTok and Instagram and whatever. That is something that everyone has access to, right? So I think the brands that are able to garner that sort of following for themselves probably have a better chance of selling more stuff, right? Because if people don't know that you're there, if you've just like got your Etsy store and you've like got your Shopify and you're maybe doing local bazaars, like that's only such a small like circle of people that's ever going to have exposure to you. So if you can take advantage of those social media factors, or if the first person you hire is a social media manager, you can even contract that out. So they're just kind of doing just that piece of it for you. That's going to really take that off of your mind so you can focus on the actual brand identity and the development and all the other things that go into making things. But I think that's the piece that's probably missing for a lot of startups is they think I can just design the coolest thing. I can, someone will just find me and pick me up. No, you really have to shop yourself around. And I think if you wield the power of social media, that'll probably get you there faster, hopefully.
Okay, no, that was actually super helpful. Because at the end of the day, if you're making it but no one's seeing it, like what are we doing? And really, I asked that question from an aspirational standpoint because everyone started off with an idea, and it takes time. But I was just curious, like, just one thing that maybe some of my brands can be thinking about if they want to be like, household status or in the big box retailers. So thank you for that. Well, that wraps up my questions. Did you have anything else that maybe you wanted to share with everyone about your experience, or some things that are important to you or near and dear to you as you have kind of, gone along your journey?
Yeah, I think off the top of my head, I think maybe just the point about being an introvert and kind of how to overcome that, just because it came up earlier in our talk. I was actually kind of surprised how well over the years that I was able, as a painful introvert, to adapt to the corporate world. It's almost like a corporate, and I know we're not talking corporate level for everything, but in the corporate world, it's almost like socializing with kind of a structure and rules. And so it feels a little bit safer as an introvert to like go talk to a stranger and ask them to do something for you that maybe they're not super jazzed about having to do for you. But then it's like, okay, no, it's their job. Like this is a corporate setting. These are kind of the rules. So that actually, I think, was sort of surprising how you can, as an introvert, make it. Like you can make it, and you do have natural instincts and natural things about being an introvert that do make you a stronger leader, for example. Introverts tend to really take seriously what they promise, as opposed to an extrovert that's kind of just like trying to please everybody all the time, or is very sociable and like the words just come out.
Uh-oh, she's on to us.
An introvert typically takes very seriously what they promise, and they will deliver on it. So they may promise less, but they may actually like have a better sort of track record for doing the thing that they said they were going to do. So yeah, I would say for all my introverts out there, like stick with it. It will get easier. Fake it till you make it is real, even though it sounds cheesy. And you do have value. You do have value just, by virtue of having a brain that sort of works differently.
You guys, that was awesome, right? That was pretty freaking awesome, right? Charlotte is such a badass in this industry, and I'm just so honored to know her, and I'm so excited that she agreed to do this with me on a Saturday morning when she could literally be doing anything else. But I hope you see how important it is to me that anyone interested in this industry has the information that they need, the encouragement that they need to like get out there, get started, and make your clothing line a success. So I hope you enjoyed this interview. If you did, you have to be sure to like and subscribe. This, again, just helps me to make sure that this information gets spread and disseminated to the people that need it the most. If you are ready to start a clothing line, guess what? That is what I'm an expert in. So you need to head over to www.blackunicornmerch.com, go to the Contact Us page, and fill out the questionnaire so that we can at least start the conversation. You get a free 45-minute consultation. There's like no pressure here. I will give you 45 minutes of my time for free to talk about what this means. And if at the end of that conversation you feel like you're ready to take the plunge, then we go. But if not, at least you are one step closer to that clothing line, to being that brand owner that you've always dreamed of. All right, guys, I will look forward to talking to you on the next Flash and Dash. Bye.